Well, hello, everyone, and welcome here to Bedford. Nick and Astis, Steve Beals with you. It's FNL Rewind, presented by Beals Insurance, a jammed-packed 60 minutes. Tom King of the Nashua Telegraph, Roger Brown of the New Hampshire Football Report and the New Hampshire Union Leader, Eric Kumba will kick off the bottom of the hour. The Dover head coach will join us. The Green Wave, of course, are 2-0. Ryan Francoeur of Winnicunnet follows Coach Kumba at 5:40, and then we close out the show, Steve, with Brian O'Reilly. That is 5 hard-hitting interviews in 1 hour.
I mean, one of those interviews is good enough for me.
Right.
You know, we could keep Tom on for an hour, but I've been instructed not to, so we're not going to do that.
We're not going to waste any time bringing him in. Tom King of the Nashua Telegraph is on the line, and he joins us now here on FNL Rewind. Tom, good afternoon.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good.
We are good. Let's start in the Gate City. You were there on Saturday night, Nashua North taking on Bishop Girton, and, well, I'll let you have the floor. What'd you see there?
Well, I mean, I saw, North shot itself in the foot a couple times with 2 turnovers early, when they were driving. I mean, they moved the ball fairly well. I mean, obviously with Curtis Harris, you should be able to move the ball, and they did that. I saw, and they put up 34 points, which, you expect them to do that too. And they've got a lot of other people besides Harris that can do some damage. Anthony Green, Brian Melange, Isaac Smith. I mean, they've got other people that can make some. And Jaden Espinal. They've got other people that can make some plays.
Right.
The thing is, what Girton needed to do is basically, play keep away a little bit and control the ball and get some offense going. And they just weren't able to do that. This is a Cardinal team that turned the ball over 7 times the week before against Sauhegan. They just don't seem in sync offensively. They've got a player in Brendan Callahan who's, very good and doesn't seem as though they're able to get him in space the way they'd like to, and use him either in the running, as an end-around running game or especially in the passing game. They use the quarterback draw a lot. They have Dylan Santasoazo run the ball a lot, but they're not able to break it. And they were able to do that a couple times last year. I think this is just a case of offense with a lot of new people up front on the offensive line compared to last year that are having trouble moving the ball offensively. And the one thing that Girton wasn't able to do hasn't been able to do is run the football. And I think in high school you've got to be able to run the football, and they just have had problems doing that. And it puts a lot of extra pressure on their defense. North
came back after a bye week. Tom, any rust there? Doesn't seem like it with the 34 total points in the win.
Yeah, I think there was early on because of the turnovers. They fumbled the ball. A bad snap went over Curtis Harris-Lopez's head, and he was rolling out, and he threw an interception, a diving play made by Girton that was pretty good. On those first 2 plays. And they had penalties. They had a lot of penalties. A few holds here and there, blocks in the back, things like that, they shot themselves in the foot a couple times. But, when you've got Curtis Harris-Lopez, and he's going to break them sooner or later, and he did in the second quarter. And they also got a nice TD pass out of Jaden Espinal right before the half with no time left on the clock. In the back of the end zone. A great play by Espinal, who's I think any of those other guys on that team are underrated at North because Harris-Lopez gets, all the attention. But he's got playmakers around him. This is a really good North team, but they haven't been challenged yet in a way. I mean, South could challenge them, but South didn't quite have the firepower that to match them. And South is young up front. So in that game, North took advantage of that and won a low-scoring 24-7 game. It looked like a game that was played between 2 teams who had just only practiced for a couple of weeks. And then North didn't play because their game against Merrimack was canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And they play Alvern, who really doesn't belong in Division One. They play Alvern on Friday. They're not going to get challenged there, I don't think, unless they shoot themselves in the foot again. So their best challenge is going to be with Londonderry, I think, at the end of the week in Week 5.
That's going to be quite a game, Tom. Hey, I was able to see the game with you and Tom the other night. Great job, first of all, and we really enjoyed that a lot. It was. I had one specific question. There was a penalty called on BG that looked like the back judge and the head ref called. Do you never could really figure out what was going on? What was that all about? Did you ever find out after the game?
No, I didn't.
Because Coach Trisciani looked pretty upset.
Yeah, I know what you're referring to, and I thought he had a right to be upset. It didn't look like there was anything concrete
Me too.
that was there.
Yeah.
Look, the officials aren't exactly on top of it. I don't. Football officials in New Hampshire have struggled this year anyway. They've struggled a lot of years, but I mean, there's a shortage of them this year. In fact, Girton's game against Souhegan had to be moved from Friday to Saturday, to a week and a half ago because they couldn't get the rest for Friday night.
Yeah.
So
the games that we've covered have been pretty good. As far as I could see, Nick, they've been pretty
we
good.
But
that one struggled a little bit. It seemed.
South Alvern. Yeah, we did South Alvern on Friday night. I thought it was a flag-happy crew. Yeah. You can always tell. When they're starting to throw them all the time. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The other thing.
But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that call was, and Trisciani was certainly. I think.
I kind of fell for him, to be honest with you.
I think because he went out to talk to them. But I think it was an unsportsmanlike. But we don't know if something was said or if there was another.
There may have been good reason. I don't know. But I just wondering if you knew.
That's what it seemed to be. But don't know. Don't know for sure.
I agree with you, Tom, on Callahan. You got to get this guy in some open space, whether that be with some sort of. He could be very creative because he can do literally anything. He could be a running back. He could be a slot receiver. He could be a wideout. He could, he's almost rugged enough where you could throw him in a tight position, fake him out, block, and release him. For whatever reason, it's not clicking. It just seems to me like in order to for BG to move forward, improving the running game, obviously you can always improve on your offensive line. It takes a while to build an offensive lineman. They're so valuable to have. But beyond that, it just seems that you can take some pressure off that offensive line if they can start opening up that area behind the linebackers, out towards the flats, bubble screen, whatever it takes to get this guy free. How would you – I know you agree with that because you just said it. What do you see as an opportunity to get this guy more in the game?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a football coach, so I don't know what kind of plays they can call. I mean, they got to have blocking for him, but we didn't call his name much at all in the first half. Yeah. So it was just I noticed that he just wasn't getting the football a lot.
It just seems to me like that North was able to tighten in their splits and just kind of focus on somewhat of a narrow run game, that they were able to dominate the offensive line, who already need a little bit of help in that area. Are you seeing that too?
Yeah, I mean, Girton. Look, the way to get Callahan going is if you're able to run the ball, then a defense has to really concern themselves about that.
Right.
Girton for the last couple of years hasn't had a great running attack.
Yeah.
They need to be able to run. They developed one later last year. I thought they got better and better, especially when they moved to the now graduated Ethan Holt into fullback, because he could take a hit and bounce off it and keep running. They need to get a running game.
Yeah.
And whether it's Callahan carrying it or whether it's somebody else carrying it, I mean, right now their running game is basically a ton of quarterback draws that don't seem to be getting them as many yards as they did a year ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, they're going to have to figure out a way to get Callahan the ball if they want to continue to play. It's going to be interesting on Friday night when they play Trinity. I mean, Trinity's very good. They got beat by Pelham, but I bet that Trinity and Girton would be a pretty competitive game. I would think. Right. I don't know what Trinity's numbers are. I'll tell you one thing: if Girton has anything in their favor, it's a vast amount of players. They have a large group. I mean, these are
and a good younger group, don't they? Yeah, the younger group's doing pretty well.
We're talking Tony Johnson era.
That's
numbers.
exciting.
Yeah.
If you look at that sideline, I mean, I was just having trouble trying to move around to, they want us to avoid the players at all costs, and I understand that. So I'm trying to get in, in an area where I can, take photos, at least early on in the game. I don't need many, but all of a sudden you see this herd coming at you, and you got to run, and there's nowhere to go. There's a lot of them.
Right.
They got a ton of players.
Yeah, Tom, we spoke last week with Coach Trisciani about that. That's obviously a very good sign for the program.
Yeah,
and
they're
good moving forward.
Yeah.
All right, switch gears here to Nashua South. They get a big win, 47-0, their first win of the season to improve to 1-2. They were supposed to be playing Merrimack this Friday, but that game, as of now, is off. Tom, can you tell us a little bit more about the status there between South and Merrimack?
I wish I knew more. I'm waiting to find out from the Nashua side. I've already got the Merrimack side. The Merrimack side is we're healthy, we're ready to play. They have no issues. Talking to Mike Susi, the athletic director today, he got a call yesterday from Lisa Gingras, and I can't speak for the Nashua side, but Susi's impression was that Nashua got advice from public health not to play. Not to play Merrimack.
So again, just to recap. Go ahead, Tom.
It doesn't seem as though there's any health issues on either side right now. Because South had a field hockey game today with Bishop Curtin, and they played it. So, and I was just over at South this afternoon for a story I'm doing on one of their players, and talked to, they were all out there getting ready for practice. So they're not shut down.
Right. Yeah.
And I talked to Scott Knight. He was kind of surprised. I mean, he knew, he found out yesterday too that they weren't going to play, and he was kind of surprised. So,
you feel a little bit for Merrimack. They have not played since week 1. That was back on September the 25th. Their game at Nashua North on October 2nd was canceled. They were supposed to play last Friday against Salem. That game was canceled, and now it looks like their date with Nashua South is in jeopardy as well.
Well, it seems that way. Now, from what I understand, the officials in Merrimack are trying to get to the bottom of why this is going on, and maybe they can try to allay any fears with whoever has made this decision. I'm waiting to, again, I'm going to have to push the issue pretty soon, because I'd like to hear from the Nashua side as to exactly why they did it. Now, look, Mike Susi, with his comments to me, also said, look, I understand if there's concern. He said everybody's got concern. So, you can't, if one school is worried about their health and safety, you can't argue with it, because, better safe than sorry to even greater extent. I mean, the health and well-being of these student athletes is the number one concern of everyone. But on the flip side, if Merrimack returned to practice on Saturday, they had one football player that had a positive test before this all happened.
That was weeks ago.
Yes.
Right.
And they have no new positive tests. I was told that people who they thought were in danger were tested and did not show anything. Now, obviously, tests are tests, and we all know in the NFL, one day's negative can be another day's positive.
Right.
But their soccer teams have played. Now, this isn't just football. This is all athletic events between the two schools.
Right.
Are off.
Right. Yeah.
You have to feel for the Merrimack kids, because they've already played soccer against the other teams. That took place last against Salem. They played Salem in boys and girls soccer. So, and I believe they played field hockey in as well. So they have played athletic events since everything was shut down for a while. Now, the only two programs that were quarantined were football and cross country. Okay? Because those are where the tests were.
Right.
And again, they all came out of the quarantine healthy, ready to go.
Well, we're going to have to keep an eye on it and just pray for the best as we move towards the end of the week. Hopefully they can find a way to still get that game in between Merrimack and Nashua South. Tom King.
You'd like to see it played. Guys, I have one question for you. Let me go. What is the football situation in terms of playoffs right now? How are they doing it?
They're going to do a tournament, as far as I know, where I don't know if every team's going to be involved, but I think they're going to go pretty deep into the D1 lineup. I have no idea about Division 2 and 3. I assume it's the same, but I don't know. But it's going to be somewhat of a tournament where I believe they're going to go 16, 8, 4, and 1 over a 4 week. Oh, 4 and 2, excuse me, over a 4-week period. And if you look at if you protract ahead, Tom, you see that end of October, that weekend would be the first series and go 4 weeks.
That would be the first one, right? Exactly.
Don't quote me on it, but that's what I understand. Yeah.
Right. That's why we only have 5 weeks for the season, and a week from this Friday is the last one.
Right. And I think, given that, I think they've done a great job, at least in model.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a great idea to get as many teams an opportunity to play, and that first week's going to be pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah, and just have to wait and see what teams can play and what teams can't in terms of health and everything else. So.
Tom King of the Nashua Telegraph, we appreciate the time, sir, as usual, and be good down there in the Gate City. Thank you.
Keep us informed, Tom.
I'm trying. I will. All right, guys.
Thank you. Again, that's Tom King, live from the Tom Pound in Nashua. All right, Roger Brown. I'm sure he's a good guy to ask that same question Tom just asked you.
Yeah, he will know.
About the Open Tournament at the end of the regular season.
Yeah.
We'll run down the Week 3 scores as well in about 1 minute. Roger on the other side, founder of the New Hampshire Football Report. You are watching FNL Rewind, presented by Beals Insurance. FNL Rewind is presented by Beals Insurance. Whether you need home, auto, or business insurance, Beals Insurance will get you both the price and quality coverage that's right for you. Call Steve at 603-471-9999 or visit BealsInsurance.com. In about 10 minutes or so, Eric Kumba of Dover will join us, the head coach guiding the Green Wave to a 2-0 start for the first time in several seasons. Ryan Francoeur of Winnicunnet will join us at 5:40, and then to close out the show, Brian O'Reilly of Pinkerton. But right now, Roger Brown is on the line. Roger, of course, senior writer for the New Hampshire Union Leader and founder of the New Hampshire Football Report. Roger, welcome inside FNL Rewind. We appreciate the time.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It looks like the big headline of the weekend, or one of the bigger storylines from Week 3, was Londonderry's win streak finally came to an end. They fell at home to Bedford. The Bulldogs came away with a 26-7 victory. That was the Lancers' first loss since the 2018 season. Your thoughts, as both teams now are 2-1. Both teams, of course, are considered to be on that short list of D1 title contenders. But what do we know now that we didn't know, per se, a week ago about these two teams, Bedford and Londonderry?
Well, Nick, I think we know that Bedford's a lot better than a lot of people expected them to be. We got a hint of that when they played Goffstown tough in Week 1. But this, between that result, which was a 5-point loss, could have gone either way. And then, when you go into Londonderry and win convincingly the way they did, you got to move them up a couple notches in your, list of contenders, I think. And Bedford, it sounds weird saying Bedford's not a contender, but I don't think a lot of people went into this season thinking, they were among the top, say, 4 teams in Division 1. But right now I'd have to say they are.
Right. And for Londonderry, is this just a hiccup, or is this something Coach Lozon should lose some sleep over?
Well, I wasn't at the game, Nick. It sounds like they played pretty sloppy. 5 turnovers, I think I read. So it sounds to me like it's correctable mistakes. Still, their defense is so good, or had been playing so well. It's a little surprising that they gave up the points they did. But, again, maybe it was short fields following the turnovers or whatnot. I'm not too worried about Londonderry. I think they'll bounce back fine. I think they've got good talent. good coaching. Just ran into a good team, and it wasn't their night, it sounds like.
Again, Roger Brown of the New Hampshire Football Report joining us here on FNL Rewind. Some other D1 scores we haven't covered yet. Exeter, their first win, 35-7 over Central. Spalding squeaked one out, 14-13 over their Seacoast rival Portsmouth. Wyndham, they got whooped, 34-0 against Pinkerton. We'll talk about that game more extensively in the second half hour. Same thing with the Dover win over Winnicott. But Alvern, they're still struggling at the D1 level now. South with a 47-0 win over the Broncos. We touched on North a little bit, and Bishop Girton with Tom King. But what other takeaways, before we get to some of the lower divisions, did you take from Division I, aside, of course, from that Bedford victory over Londonderry, Roger?
Well, one more thing on Londonderry is I think I told you guys to tell Jimmy not to wear the red pants. And they're doomed when they wear those pants.
We did deliver the message. Yes. We did.
I don't think we'll see those again, hopefully.
He claims otherwise, so just so you know, Roger.
We'll see about that.
He said you provided incentive.
Okay. Division One. I guess Dover. I know you're going to talk to Eric here shortly. We knew they were on the rise, and they were going to be good this year, and I think they'll be even better next year. But impressive to come out and win the two games that they did. They beat Exeter in their first game when Exeter already had a game under their belt, and then they beat a 2-0 Winnicott team. So, I put them in the power poll this week. We'll see if they end up in the top 10, but that's a team to watch, I think. And South, they were 0-2, and I know they got beat, pretty good by Pinkerton, but I still think that's a solid club that could make some noise moving forward.
Hi, Roger. Steve Beals here. Thanks for joining us, as always. Just wanted to talk about the quarterback situation. I watched the Bedford quarterback last year as a sophomore, and I thought he showed a lot of those intangible qualities, but he was just young and he was new. And by the end of the year, he started to show some really good qualities as a quarterback and had that seemed to have the attitude and the demeanor of developing and taking a little piece of the more and more piece of the pie as far as the leadership of the team, at least on the offensive side of the ball. So I was just wondering what your thoughts are about him. And then the second thing at the same time was the Londonderry quarterback, McEachern. He had suffered a neck injury the week before, and I was just wondering what his numbers of production were, and if you heard anything about him not being necessarily at his best because of the injury.
Again, I wasn't at the game, so I didn't talk to Coach Lozon, but it was my understanding that McEachern could have played back in week 2. He could have went back in. He just wasn't, something wasn't feeling right, so they didn't want to, test it in that game. And they've got good kids at that position behind him as well. Mm-hmm. So Joe Michael, Bedford quarterback, I was impressed with him last season, probably more than most people. Based on those who I talked to, but I don't think Bedford had the season they were hoping. But it certainly wasn't because of their quarterback. Right. And he was a sophomore. I don't think until they had the coaching change, I'm not sure that he was even slated to be the starting quarterback. So it was kind of a surprise when he took over at that position. I don't think he looked like a sophomore. He wasn't You were blown away by his performance, but he was fine, I thought, throwing and running. And
you're talking last year.
Yeah,
I agree.
I haven't seen him play this year yet, but I did hear. I'm looking forward to it because I know he worked out with Trevor Knight, the former UNH quarterback, all summer, and I heard that he improved tremendously. So. I haven't laid eyes on him yet, but I'm looking forward to it when I do. I've got to imagine that he's improved significantly, even over what was a decent season last year.
Yeah, Trinity and Pelham, great. Kind of a great. We're getting some good matchups. We saw BG and Sauhegan. There was just something about that game that Nick and I had covered on Friday Night Lights. It was really enjoyable, kind of a cross-division game to watch. This is another one of those, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just a great match. What did you see in that game that stuck out to you? Pelham obviously came out strong.
Yeah, I saw 2 non-Division I games over the weekend, and Pelham was one of them, and I would just say they're terrific across the board. I mean, their defense has yet to allow a point this season in 3 games. Offensively, they got a little bit of everything. They got a fullback type, between the tackles, runner, a couple of guys, speedy, shifty guys. They throw the ball well. They have one of the best tight ends in the state, Zach Jones. I was really, really impressed with them. They dropped from Division II to Division III. They're going to be very hard to beat. I think had they stayed in Division II, they would have been fine this year. And they're young. Their quarterback's a sophomore. And again, they got a big fullback who's a sophomore who doesn't look it. He's got when you look at him, you think he's a senior just because of his physique. But just impressed with everything that Pelham did. And Trinity's a good team. They were without James Tebow, but they got good players. They're the defending D3 champs, and they just didn't get in any type of a rhythm offensively all night. It was all Pelham.
What was Pelham doing to stop that, to thwart that?
No running room. There was no ground game. Alessandro, Trinity's quarterback, if he, escaped the pocket and was scrambling, he'd pick up yards, but there was no sustained, they weren't moving the chains at all. They gave up a few plays in the passing game, but field position was all Pelham. I think I had 2 plays inside the 20-yard line. Trinity was inside Pelham's 20 for just 2 plays in the whole game. And the score, it was pretty lopsided score. I think it was 25-0 final, but it could have been much worse. Pelham was on the 1, first down on the 1 in the first half, end of the first half, and got backed up by like 3 penalties. You know how those games go in the second half sometimes. So
it's downhill.
So they beat a very, very good Trinity team, and like I said, they're going to be tough to beat in that division.
Roger, we appreciate the time, as we always do, and thanks again. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks, I'm sure.
Okay, guys. Sounds good.
Thank you. Roger. That, again, is Roger Brown of the New Hampshire Union Leader, also of the New Hampshire Football Report, nhfootballreport.com. It really is the go-to for Granite State football heads. All right, on the other side, it's going to be a speed round or a speed half hour. Eric Kumba of Dover is next. Ryan Francoeur of Winnicott and Brian O'Reilly in the wings as well. You are watching FNL Rewind. It's presented by Beals Insurance. Back here on FNL Rewind, it's presented by Beals Insurance. Nick Anastas, Steve Beals with you from the Beals Insurance Studios. Ryan Francoeur coming up, Winnicott head coach, and Brian O'Reilly, you should know that name by now, the Pinkerton head coach, will join us coming up. But right now on the line, Eric Kumba of Dover. The Green Wave are 2-0 for the first time in a long time, and Coach Kumba joins us right now on the phone. Coach, good afternoon, and how are you?
Good. Just, we're in the middle of practice here. We're doing some individual stuff, so I was able to sneak away for a bit, and the kids are excited to get going on the next one.
Dover at 2-0. It's got kind of a strange ring to it, at least for us here, since it's been a while. How big has this start been for your club?
I think, I'll be honest, especially given everything that's happened, in the world the last few months, last 6 months or so, the kids have developed this level of innocence to an extent, to the point where I don't think they realize, the extent of being 2-0 right now. And I've been asking around, and I think the answer is 2004 was the last time Dover's beaten Winnicott and Exeter in the same season. So, but and you look at these kids, some of them weren't even born in 2004, so they don't really quite get the grasp the magnitude of that. But this group's a fun group, and they one thing they do is they play really hard for each other, and that's kind of what drives them. And I think they have an immense appreciation for this because of the fact that it could have never happened.
And the scary thing is that you guys have a lot of room to grow, right? I mean, it's primarily based around a strong junior class, including the man at the quarterback controls, Lopez Sullivan. Talk a little bit about this group, Coach, and especially this junior class and how they've really come to the forefront here in 2020.
Yes. So we, right now we currently only have eight seniors in the program, which is a low number given that we have 67 in the program this year. So, of those seniors, those are guys in that senior class, we have 2 3-year starters on the offensive defensive lines. So those guys are leaders in that standpoint. But this junior class, before it's all said and done, will have played enough football to last, to equal careers of a lot of other kids. They were put in a situation at a young moment last year, play some snaps and play varsity games when the year prior they were playing on Thursday afternoons in the freshman game. So
right.
They were forced to grow up real fast, and we definitely took our lumps and had some growing pains last year. But I think the growth that they made from August of last year to today is massive, and it's exciting that they have a year left, and also have an opportunity, hopefully, if and when the world goes back to normal, to have a true full off season with them to kind of build even more.
I would agree. Coach, congratulations to you and all the players and the Dover community as a whole. I can tell you when we did some advertising, let folks know during the game, the response was incredible. The analytics that came back from that game from the Dover area was incredible to our broadcast. And I want to thank the school and the athletic director, you and all of the people in Dover for being so warm to us to do Friday Night Lights there. I can't wait to get back again. And the last thing I'll say is you have the tallest set of stanchion of lights that I've ever seen, and it made the game really simple for me to read the numbers and alignment. But congratulations to you. I want to just immediately go in to talk about, obviously, Lopez Sullivan, Geppert, and I apologize, I forgot the name of number 36.
That's Bo Normando.
Wow. Can you, right at the top, obviously Lopez Sullivan's a huge success story, great intangibles. We'll get to him in a minute. Talk to us about Normando. So
Normando is he's
what a player.
Kid that, he's a kid who, he had the older brother that was here a few years ago and ended up being a all-conference and all-state linebacker. And he's playing at Plymouth right now, or what would have been. And, he was kind of you weren't sure how he was going to develop. He was a little different personality than his brother, who was a little loud and wild, and you just wanted to see kind of how he would grow up. And this year he's kind of taken it and run with it. He was voted team captain, which shows that he has the respect of his teammates. And, what many people don't know is, Bo, especially on offense, has played in the last year 3 or 4 different positions for us, to the point where in our last game against PG last year, we actually moved him to offensive tackle because we had some injuries and needed some help there. So he's that type of player, coach whatever helps the team type of guy. And he's finally having a chance to play in a spot where he highlights his athletic ability pretty well, and he's all over the place right now defensively. If you watch the game film, he's making tackle after tackle.
Yeah. The other, Lopez Sullivan, really quick, seems to have incredible intangibles and a sense of calmness on the confidence on the field that I noticed that the other players work around him. His movement in the pocket really impressed me the day. Knew when to go outside, roll out, knew when to step up. Your just thoughts on this guy as a junior, to think ahead. You had him the rest of this year and next year. Tell us about him. I mean, he is just something special to watch. Quick release, very Kansas City Mahomes-esque, if you will. My thoughts were. Fill us in.
Yeah, so Darian, it's a very unique situation. In my years at St. Thomas, I've been fortunate enough to have the same coaching staff for the most part. Mm-hmm. So when I was there, they've all followed me here to Dover. And Darian is the son of Dave Lopez, who's been on my staff since day one back in 2011. And Darian, has always wanted to learn about football. So he would sit in our offensive meetings, at 8 years old, 9 years old, taking notes.
Wow.
And, so he's been listening to football. He wanted to learn football, and he's been working at it for a long time. And then, finally now that he's got his chance, he recalls all the years of watching those St. Thomas teams that we had play, and he wants to be able to generate that sort of experience for himself. And he's kind of spent the time on his own, especially amidst COVID and doing things, with Trevor Knight, who's done a great job with him, and then throwing on his own. And I mean, the kid would bike himself to a field if you needed him to, just so he can get a workout. And he's that type of kid, and he's a great leader. His energy is contagious, as you said.
Yep. And
the calmness that he has in a game, he's really learned to allow things to kind of develop and come to him, opposed to getting emotionally too high and kind of getting things out of whack.
He's going to be something to watch. Before I go, real quick, I've only got a few seconds here. Come out in the second half, all of a sudden Winnicott started to find some legs, some strange things were happening, and somebody on that sidelines, I assume as you, called an unbelievable timeout, and your team came out and just shut it all down. Tell us about that. What did you see? Who made the call on the timeout? Why'd you make it? And then how about the response of your team?
Yeah, so we went 3-0 to start the half, and when it kind of gets the ball, and as they did all game, they got a chunk or two on their first couple plays, and then they went into their no huddle, and you can just tell the kids were not expecting that to happen as quickly, given the moment in the game, and what it's kind of kept moving down, and then I ended up deciding to make the timeout. I think when they crossed about the 30 going in, just to kind of let everyone calm down, let our coaches talk to them about how to get set up in a situation where they're not getting a call in fast enough, possibly, and sometimes in those situations where kids may get emotionally, overmatched and a little bit emotionally fatigued, you want to give them a chance to just take a break for a second.
Right. Well, that was a great call, Coach. Tremendous call, and it was a perfect time. And we can't wait to get back and see Dover again. It was just a fun team to watch, and the celebration and the energy after the game was just incredible to see. And as you say, in this situation the world we're going through right now, that was a real bright light in my weekend, I'll tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the coverage you guys gave us and everything you do for the state of New Hampshire. It's for people, especially now, given the restrictions on fans and you're giving people access to the games that may not get it otherwise. I know my parents. I grew up in New Jersey. My parents watched the broadcast down in Pennsylvania. They moved there when I was in college, so they thoroughly enjoyed it. Good. And we're very pleased to be able to watch their son coach. So we appreciate everything you guys are doing for us as well.
Well, Coach, we appreciate the time today, and certainly good luck next week, or this week, against Portsmouth Oyster River. We appreciate it again, Coach. Thank you.
No problem, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
That, again, is Dover's Eric Kumba. The Green Wave are 2-0. They
Very
will
impressive.
Take on Portsmouth on Friday.
Very impressive.
All right. When we come back, Ryan Francoeur of Winnicott on the other side. The Warriors, they're still players despite the loss to Dover.
Oh, yeah.
Winnicott sitting there at 2-1. Coach Francoeur on the other side. You are watching FNL Rewind, presented by Beals Insurance. FNL Rewind from the Beals Insurance Studios. It's brought to you, of course, by Beals Insurance. Whether you need home, auto, or business insurance, Beals Insurance will get you both the price and quality coverage that's right for you. Call Steve at 603-471-9999 or visit BealsInsurance.com. It's been a good show so far. Tom King of the Nashua Telegraph kicked it off. Roger Brown of the New Hampshire Football Report followed. We just got off the phone with Eric Kumba of Dover, and Coach Brian O'Reilly is in the on-deck circle. Of course, Coach O'Reilly of Pinkerton. Joining us now, though, on the phone is Ryan Francoeur, second-year head coach at Winnicott. Coach Francoeur, welcome inside FNL Rewind. We appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me.
You guys got off to a 2-0 start before coming back down to earth a little bit with a 28-12 loss against Dover. But let's start with the positives. Of course, you guys beat Exeter, which is always a headline that was back in week number 1. And then you came away with a blowout victory in week number 2, or, well, I guess a touchdown is not a blowout, but a solid 14-7 win at Portsmouth before the setback against Dover. Assess where your team is at 2-1 through 3 games of the season.
I think we're where we would be if it was a normal season and we were going into, week 2 of the normal season. I think everyone's there. Those first 2 games, for a lot of us were almost like our first 2 scrimmages in the sense of, what was installed and how much time you've had with the kids. So everyone was in the same boat. But for most of our preseasons, it's a preseason that involves 2 scrimmages. None of us had that this year. We feel like we're in that spot right about now.
Right. Well, your team looked like they executed and hung around. I mean, you fell behind very early in the game, and it was kind of an uphill struggle against Dover from there. But I think it speaks to your team. They didn't quit. They played a full 48 minutes and came away with some high points in that game as well, including trying to get back into it early in the third quarter. How much does that effort in a loss against Dover really speak to your team and their effort level collectively?
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. We never felt in the game that the game was over, and and the kids didn't feel it either, so it was one of those things where we didn't have control of the score, but we felt good about what we had to execute in the game. But so that's great going forward. The kids, don't credit to Dover that Eric does a great job over there and they're having a great season. But the kids and the staff and all of us are hoping that we get another shot at that eventually, just because you hate putting giving 5 turnovers to your team and then not giving yourself a shot just to have a competitive football game. And the kids did their best to keep it that way. We're happy how we did in the second half. It was 6-0 us in the second half. No moral victories, but we that was our goal in the second half, to win the second half and see where it went. And we had a few opportunities there, but you had to play perfect once you do that to yourselves.
I think you just nailed it. You came out in the second half, and especially I thought that Coach Kumba called a very good timeout because you guys were brewing, if you know what I mean. Things were starting to percolate, and I thought that timeout was good, and I think that helped thwart a little bit. But if you look at that second half, you saw Winnicott, and you saw the reason you guys were 2-0 from what I could see. And we actually, you had a couple things turn your way in the second half. Things could have been right down to the wire. Withstanding that, what we saw was just right from the opening. It looked like you just got yourselves in a hole, and then teams that honor your team's quality would have kind of broken down and fallen apart. These guys just keep coming. I'm really looking forward to see you guys this week. I want to talk about Tilly. This guy really impressed me. As Nick and I were talking about it during the broadcast. His arm, decisions he makes, his ability to kind of move in the pocket. He had a lot of work to do trying to get vision over those defensive linemen that were standing high and closing in, especially in the first half. Your thoughts about this young man and, kind of give us what you see moving forward, because he's a junior, correct?
Yeah, correct. And the majority of our team is, we're real.
You could tell.
Senior class too, but
yep.
We started 6 or 7 sophomores last year. Now it's starting to pay off a little bit, and they're a great group of kids. But Kyle, so it's interesting last year. Last year was a QB carousel for us. We started 4 kids, and we didn't give Kyle a start as a varsity quarterback as a sophomore last year into our final game of the season. He went undefeated as the JV quarterback, and then the last game of the season, we said, all right, let's give this kid a shot, see what we got going in next year. And he really. His confidence and kind of how he commanded the offense really made us feel good about going into this year with him in that role. He's been great. He got bigger in the offseason. He's tough. It's just, he has a really good self-belief, and he doesn't get down on bad plays and stuff along those lines, and the kids kind of feed off that. So the kids respect him. He's a tough leader, and so we're very lucky that we have him. He knows he has things that he has to work on. But we all do, and so no, we're very thrilled to have Kyle in that spot.
If there was one thing I saw that looked like he probably could improve a little bit, or maybe I only saw him once, was some of the handoffs were a little bit awkward, and I think that. But as far as the throwing game and that intangible ability to look away from his ultimate receiver and look down the field and decoy and give guys that separation, he did a great job. And there was 3 or at least maybe 4 passes, Coach, that were just outside the fingertips of the players. And
sure.
if that turned around, those were big gains, territory, positional change in that second half. I really thought he came out strong.
Yeah, he did. And, people that don't follow us enough don't realize the amount of pressure we put on our quarterbacks, running a triple option offense. Yeah. Sometimes there's you have a 7-yard loss and you realize it's because we were supposed to give the ball and we pulled it or whatever it might be. So that, it's a lot of pressure on him to make those reads for us. And I very rarely will say to him, okay, this is going to be a pull or this is going to be a pitch. We practice it hard during the week, and we put kids in a position that we think can make those decisions and try to put the pressure in practice for them to do so. And so it's a lot to run that in our offense. And he's going to get even better for us, I think.
Well, I'll send it back to Nick. Congratulations on a great program that you're building there. You're young, and it's just excited to look at Winnicott football as we move forward. So I'll send it back to Nick.
Thanks. Thank you.
Coach, correct me if I'm wrong here. Final question. You guys are off this week. Is that right?
No. Yeah, the NHIA site didn't put it on. We got 3-0 Memorial coming home to our house.
Okay, great. So you will have 5 regular season games
Correct.
in the end before the open tournament. Okay. So you've got your hands full then with another unbeaten team, I guess, technically, in Memorial. What are you doing, or what will you do this week to get ready for the Crusaders? Final question.
Yeah, so I mean, what we do each week is what we, it's what we do. We take care of ourselves, and I think a lot of the problem with us last Friday night was we didn't take care of ourselves. So we usually feel pretty good when we take care of what we're trying to do offensively and defensively, that we'll have a chance in games. Memorial, they're riding high. Really, their coach is doing an amazing job turning that program around, having them at 3-0 right now. They look like a very much a momentum team where you could see in the games when they started getting some belief early on, they started playing even better. So, and they've been putting up a lot of points. So we're going to have to slow them down offensively and take care of the football. But, we're just this week's going to be back to fundamentals and just make sure we're doing the little things right.
Good stuff, Coach. We appreciate it. Good luck against Memorial, and thank you for your time tonight.
Hey, thanks for everything you guys do. That's great that you guys are covering the games, and we really appreciate it.
No problem, Coach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, that's Ryan Francor of Winnicott. Coming up, Brian O'Reilly to close down the show. You are watching FNL Rewind, presented by Beals Insurance. Back here for our final segment of FNL Rewind, presented by Beals Insurance. Nick Anastas with Steve Beals. Want to thank our guests to this point, Tom King of the Nashua Telegraph, Roger Brown of the New Hampshire Football Report and the New Hampshire Union Leader, head coach Eric Kumba of Dover, Coach Ryan Francor of Winnicott. If you missed any part of the show, the archives, of course, are up on our channel on YouTube, FNLNH Media. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button. We would appreciate it. Our final guest is the longtime head coach at Pinkerton Academy. He is also the athletic director, and he joins us now. Brian O'Reilly on the phone. Coach, good evening, sir. We appreciate the time.
Always a pleasure.
I imagine that you said something effective to your team at halftime. It was a 6-0 game. You guys had the lead over Wyndham, but you came out and really blew doors. 34-0 ended up being the final score. You score 14 points in each of the third and fourth quarters. What was the difference in your head between how your team executed in the first half and when you were able to take care of business in the second half?
Oh, you know how that goes. The coach always says something that makes some great decision, and then everything just opens up. Everybody thinks there's like secret things that go on at halftime.
We gave you credit for that.
I appreciate that. I'm not going to tell you we didn't talk about doing a couple of this, that, and everything else, but the gist of it was I thought we were doing very well in the first half. We just couldn't break through the second level and get the yards that we needed to get. We just talked about holding on to our blocks, and we changed the quick blocking scheme. But I honestly think the reality is Wyndham probably ran out of gas. We've got to be fair here. I go back to the first week when we played at Londonderry, and I remember what our kids were like at halftime as far as how exhausted they were. And I'm sure Londonderry was too, because for both of us, it was our first game. And you can't replicate that in practice. You can run as many gassers as you want, but until you go full bore, your body doesn't give out everything it's supposed to. And in fairness to the Wyndham kids, they haven't played this year, where we were in our third game.
Right.
And it was a hot, humid day for that time of year. And I think, honestly, they ran out of some gas because they gave us everything they had in the first half. And when we broke through with the quick play in the second half, I think it was probably it. It just let all the air out.
Yeah, I agree. It looked like there were a lot of hands on the hips and hung heads on the Wyndham side, especially the defense, seeing that you guys really dominated the time of possession. It just seemed like that defense for Wyndham was out there for too long. But then again, Coach, controlling the trench is nothing new for your program. I mean, you got a couple of monsters up front again this year. Really, your D-line rotations are 7 or 8 deep, it seems like. Just speak to your depth a little bit, especially in the trench, Coach, because that seems like week in and week out it is an advantage for your club.
That is the strength of our team this year. Between returning a bunch of people from last year and having some injuries last year of underclassmen who weren't able to finish the year, we knew that we were going to have a lot of people up front on both sides, a lot of seniors and juniors. And as you say, I don't know that we go 6 or 7 deep in that, but we're rotating people in and out the entire time.
Right.
We lost one of our better linemen this week for regular sickness, nothing COVID, but he just all week long he was down and out, and we just stuck in. a new guy who did a tremendous job. So we've got a lot of people to fill up front. The trenches where our program and running programs like Exeter and Salem, that's what we do. And if we've got a line, then we can keep it pushing. And if we don't, then that's when you see us do things we don't normally do, like put the ball in the air double-digit times.
Coach Steve Beals here. Thanks again, as always, for coming on. We really enjoyed the hospitality at that amazing facility. And it may have been hot for the players, but it wasn't for Nick and I. And Ben, we really enjoyed the beauty there, and got a great facility. But I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to be a little bit contrarian about the second half. I believe that the wind did not go out of the sails in the second half of that defense. I believe the wind went out of the sails when Evan Wilson busted that fumble towards the end of the third quarter, I believe it was, and then I started seeing hands on hips. So let's talk about before that happened. I'll tell you what I saw. What I saw was running backs were getting through the hole like a rocket, and I saw you quick hitting that hole play after play after play. And then I also saw your left and right guard play guard work like I haven't seen. I love, John Hanna is my favorite player that ever played the game. So I saw those guards getting it done, and the technique positioning that Wyndham was winning in the first half to a certain extent. They were completely getting owned by those down blocks. Those guards deserved a lot of credit for that win, I think. How about you?
Good for you for noticing that. That's something we talked to our team about today. Specifically, we talked to the guards about how I used that exact phrase, how impressed I was with the technique they used between cross blocking and fold blocking and all those technical things. And
hitting the hole 100 miles an hour, Albert. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, and he had Evan in front of him opening up on the line.
That doesn't hurt.
That is the thing about Jacob. He is fast. And if you can give Jacob some room, then he's going to take advantage of that. And turnovers didn't hurt us, that's for sure.
So you were being modest. Let's put it that way. You were being modest.
Well, no, I might have. I mean, I don't ever want. There was truth to what I said.
Yep.
I mean, there's a big difference.
There is.
Playing in your first game than playing in your third game. And the team you're playing this time, they're in their third game. So that's never really happened before. Many of us open up in the opening game of the season, and we're not hitting on all cylinders, but the other teams had just as many practice days as us, and shame on us for not being ready, but not this time.
Yeah.
They really were at a disadvantage. We had many more practice days than they did. And look, we've had tough times with that program in the last 2 years. They're tough kids. I live in that town. I've lived in that town for decades. I know the athletes in that town. That's a great sports town.
It is.
And we just got lucky with the weather for ourselves for that one.
Okay, back to the modest thing again. Let me pat you with this. On my side of the thing, I'll put it back to Nick. But one of the things that I think you can be thrilled about, and I've, as Nick and I have talked, I'm a big fan of where Pinkerton is heading right now. It's just a matter of staying injury-free and keeping things up. But one thing I think you can be thrilled about is you did beat, I think, a pretty darn good defense. And because I think Wyndham's defense is a solid one, and you guys took over that second half. So congratulations on the win. Can't wait to see you guys play Salem next week, and look forward to Pinkerton have a great season. So thanks for coming on. I'd love to have you on for an hour sometime.
Sure. Anytime, Steve.
All right.
Coach, I'm going to keep you for one more question, and it's for you personally. As the athletic director, you guys had senior night on Saturday against Wyndham. Just give me a little bit of an idea of what logistically has to go into that from your spot as both the AD and the head coach. I'd imagine that it's a lot to juggle, but it seemingly went off pretty well on Saturday. What can you say about that process as both an AD and an HC?
It's hard. If you're going to run senior night the way it's been run, it's nearly impossible because of the COVID restrictions and social distancing. And I was very pleased with my parents the other day because I took them to the side and explained to them that we couldn't do what we normally did, but if we could get them together with their sons and pictures and their game uniforms and with their friends, and we low-keyed it, and the parents did a great job with that. And I that's been happening with all of our sports. So we're just trying to let the parents have some recognition with their sons, because we're all sensitive to what happened last spring when they didn't have any sports. but they're helping us out by not expecting too much. And we always have to step back and remind ourselves, we didn't even think we'd be playing sports this fall, possibly. So let's be happy that we're doing that. And maybe some of the other things that have been going on, we just push them a little bit to the side or a little lesser this time and keep these sports going.
Right. Well, Coach, I guess one final question. What has the feedback, I guess, been like? I mean, it seems like kind of a thankless job to begin with. Then you throw this COVID thing on top of it.
Yeah.
You said the parents have been pretty good, but I'm sure you've had to put some people at least in their place, so to speak. I mean, what has the overall PR part of it been like for you during this COVID thing?
I honestly, we haven't had a lot of problems. The thing that I think is the biggest issue, and we understand it, are the visiting parents not being happy that they can't come and see their sons or daughters play, pick the sport. But that is a COVID thing. And maybe it speaks to the fact that people are starting to take this maybe less seriously. I don't know. That as the season goes on, we're getting more and more like, well, I don't understand why I can't come to the game. And it was just like, well, you can't. I'm sorry, but, and they're not happy when you tell them that. And put that aside. And it happens to both sides. It happens when we're away and when people come to our place and all the sports. But we just have to hope that parents understand. Take a step back and think about this summer when you didn't even think that John or Mary was going to be playing, and just be happy with that. Beyond that, everything's been fine, honestly. Parents are good because they're concerned with the health of their children. So I don't have any complaints about this. Hopefully things are going to be okay in the winter. Looking down the road, things will open up. I hope. We don't know. But it's been a year like none of us have ever experienced before, that's for sure.
That's right. You can say that again. Coach, we appreciate the time, and good luck against Salem Friday night. That promises to be perhaps an instant classic. Coach, good luck. We appreciate it. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you very much. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Again, that's Brian O'Reilly, longtime head coach, I believe now in his second year as the athletic director at Pinkerton. And
talk about going right into it, but with COVID, that's got to complicate. As you was rightly asking.
Well, if there's a guy I want at the head of the ship, so to speak, it's Coach O'Reilly.
Experience counts,
certainly has been around the block a
Nick,
few
I was
times.
going to say one thing when Coach O'Reilly was on, and give the time constraints. Great guest, by the way, you got this week as always. Enjoy it. It's a shame. To me, I'm thrilled. As he said, he's absolutely right. The kids are playing some football.
Right.
At least these seniors have got something that they can talk. And I think he said that well. But, however, there's something going on this year with a lot of football teams are kind of expanding in numbers again, which we really see. We've talked about 2 or 3 of them today.
Good to see, right.
Just really good to see. Same time, there's a whole bunch of new young coaches flooding in that are just seem to be outstanding young men that are doing a great job with these kids. But there's a lot of programs that have got very good football teams developing this year. And imagine, I just really wish, that we could have had a jamboree and had a full season but I'll take it. Like Coach O'Reilly says, I'll take it. But, boy, I'll tell you, there's a lot of programs out there that are playing good football. You think about it now. Bedford, Londonderry, Salem, Winnicott, Dover.
Memorial's 3-0.
I mean, we're just going on and on. Nashua North. I mean, we can go. There's Spalding. How about Spalding?
Souhegan and D2.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many good teams in Division 1 and 2 that we follow that are just great football teams. And I'm actually really excited about the playoffs because the way they've got it designed with this thing is a lot of them going to get a crack at it.
Yeah,
so it's exciting.
We'll have an extra round of postseason football.
And there's no better way to end the season, a truncated season, than this way.
I agree.
If everybody stays healthy.
All right. We want to thank Tom King of the Nashua Telegraph for joining us live from the Tom Pound. Roger Brown, of course, of the New Hampshire Union Leader. And check out Roger's website as well, nhfootballreport.com. Again, nhfootballreport.com. We want to thank the coaches as well, Eric Kumba of Dover, Ryan Francoeur of Winnicott, and Brian O'Reilly of Pinkerton. Want to thank Ben Beals, the man in the captain's chair again, the director, doing a great job, and Steve Beals, of course, of Beals Insurance, to my left. My name is Nick Anastas, saying so long. We will be back Friday with another Friday Night Lights New Hampshire game of the week. It's all brought to you by Beals Insurance.